Shalom to the royal family of Israel. I want to give all praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yahweh and His mighty Son, Yahweh B'Hashem Mashiach Yahushua. I want to give a salutation to all the mighty men, mighty women, and mighty children of Israel. This is Brother Andrew with the Strength of Judah, and with me we have
Producer Judah,
Sister Rachel,
and Sister Mary.
And today's lesson is the Feast of Dedication.
So today we'll be going over the Feast of Dedication, also known as Hanukkah. And we're going to go over how you're supposed to keep it and why we're keeping it. You see, understand this thing, folks. We are supposed to and commanded to keep the Lord's solemn feast days. And we can get that in the book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 15. Read.
The book of Nahum, chapter 1, verse 15. Behold, upon the mountains the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace. O Judah, keep thy solemn feast, perform thy vows, for the wicked shall no more pass through thee. He is utterly cut off.
How clear is that? And that's not just Judah, that's all of Israel. O Judah, keep thy solemn feast. It said, keep thy solemn feast. So we're going to get into the Feast of Dedication. The Feast of Dedication is also known as Hanukkah, is an 8-day high holy week commemorating our forefathers' cleansing and dedicating the Lord's holy sanctuary. The origins of this feast begin with the prophecies in Daniel chapter 8, which discusses the beginning of the Greek Empire and the prophecy of Alexander
Father with his angels, and then he shall reward every man according to his works.
You see, when Yahushua comes back, he's going to reward us according to our works. So you can't not do nothing, folks. People always assume that because Christ died on the cross, that we no longer have to keep the Lord's high holy day. Christ, the Messiah, Hamashiach, the anointed one, Yahushua himself kept the Feast of Dedication. We can get that in the book of John, chapter 10, verse 22. Read.
The book of John, chapter 10, verse 22. And it was at Jerusalem, the Feast of Dedication, and it was winter.
The Feast of Dedication is in the winter, not the fall. Well, let's find out about Yahushua. Verse 23, read.
The book of John, chapter 10, verse 23. And Jesus walked in the temple in Solomon's porch. Then came the Jews round about him and said unto him, How long doest thou make us to doubt? If thou be the Christ, tell us plainly. Verse 25. Jesus answered them, I told you, and ye believe not. The works that I do in my Father's name, they bear witness of me. But ye believe not, because ye are not of my sheep, as I said unto you. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. And I give unto them eternal life, and they shall never perish, neither shall any man pluck them out of my hand. My Father, which gave them me, is greater than all, and no man is able to pluck them out of my Father's hand. I and my Father are one.
Have an understanding about something, folks. Look at what he said. He said, my sheep hear my voice. He said, my sheep hear my voice. But for you Israelites who are keeping the solemn feast days, who are keeping the law, statutes, and commandments, you're his sheep. You hear his voice. You immediately responded. So now let's get into the accounts and let's get into why we keep the Feast of Dedication.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 1, verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes.
So we see
that he reigned in his stead, the first over Greece, and and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him.
So when he was running the entire earth, high God.
But whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth.
Stop. So he knew he was about to die of syphilis or AIDS because he was a weird boy. He was a fun boy. And so the fun boy was about to die of AIDS or syphilis. And so he called his servants. Now, those were his friends, his top general.
While he was yet alive. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And his servants bare rule over everyone in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth.
Stop. That's where sin increased in the earth. When the Edomites took over, that's when sin increased on the earth. Mic drop.
Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been an hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. In those days went there out of Israel wicked men, who persuaded many, saying, Let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow.
So you see, this dude was King Wicked, and our own people went to him to say, let's make a covenant with him, because since we departed from the Greeks, we've been much troubled. These are the same type of sellouts that we got today. Read.
So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so forth herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. Whereupon they built a place of exercise at Jerusalem according to the customs of the heathen.
So what they built was a gym. That's what they built. A Greeks can get it all turned on by him. Read.
And made themselves uncircumcised, and forsook the holy covenant, and joined themselves to the heathen, and were sold to do mischief. Now when the kingdom was established before Antiochus, he thought to reign over Egypt, that he might have the dominion of 2 realms. Wherefore he entered into Egypt with a great multitude, with chariots and elephants and horsemen, and a great navy, and made war upon Ptolemy, king of Egypt. Ptolemy was afraid of him, and fled, and many were wounded to death. Thus they got the strong cities in the land of Egypt, and he took the spoils thereof. And after that Antiochus had smitten Egypt, he returned again in the 143rd year, and went up against Israel and Jerusalem with a great multitude, and entered proudly into the sanctuary, and took away the golden altar, and the candlestick of light, and all the vessels thereof, and the table of the shewbread, and the pouring vessels, and the vials, and the censers of gold, and the veil, and the crown, and the gold ornaments that were before the temple, all which he pulled off. He took also the silver, and the gold, and the precious vessels. Also he took the hidden treasures which he found. And when he had taken all away, he went into his own land, having made a great massacre, and spoken very proudly. Therefore there was a great mourning in Israel, in every place where they were, so that the princes and elders mourned. The virgins and young men were made feeble, and the beauty of women was changed. Every bride for the inhabitants thereof, and all the house of Jacob was covered with confusion. And after 2 years fully expired, the king sent his chief collector of tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude, and spake peaceful words unto them. But all were deceit, for when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. And when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and the walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive, and possessed the cattle. They builded the city of David with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. They store it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there. And so they became a sore snare, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. Whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt, as had been her glory. So was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning.
We see this account would happen with our people against this wicked heathen Edomite. Let's go to 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 1 to get some accounts.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 1. Then took Gorgias 5,000 footmen and 1,000 of the best horsemen, and removed out of the camp by night, to the end he might rush in upon the camp of the Jews and smite them suddenly. And the men of the fortress were his guides. Now when Judas heard thereof, he himself removed, and the valiant men with him, that he smite the king's army which was at Emmaus, while as yet the forces were dispersed from the camp. The mean season of Gorgias by night into the camp of Judas. And when he found no man there, he sought them in the mountains, for he said, these fellows flee from us. But as soon as it was day, Judas shewed himself in the plain with 3,000 men, who were nevertheless had neither armor nor swords to their minds. And they saw the camp of the heathen, that it was strong and well harnessed, and compassed round about with horsemen, and these were expert of war.
So we see here Judas and their encounter with the enemy. Let me get 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 8. Read.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 8. Then said Judas to the men that were with him, fear ye not their multitude, neither be ye afraid of their assault. Remember how our fathers were delivered in the Red Sea, when Pharaoh pursued them with an army. Now therefore let us cry unto heaven, if peradventure the Lord will have mercy upon us, and remember the covenant of our fathers, and destroy this host before our face this day.
Wait a minute. He told his men to call on the Lord for protection and victory. Read.
Verse 11, that so all the heathen may know that there is one who delivereth and saveth Israel.
Now, see, you see how he honors the Most High? Do you guys see how he exalts the Most High? He don't want to win, right? He don't want to win so they won't be killed. He wants to win so that all the heathen may know that there is one who delivered and saved Israel.
Verse 12, then the strangers lifted up their eyes and saw them coming over against them. Wherefore they went out of the camp to battle. But they that were with Judas sounded their trumpets. So they joined battle, and the heathen, being discomfited, fled into the plain.
You see the power of the Most High God? They became discomfited. They became discomfited. 1 Maccabees chapter 4, verse 15. Read.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 15. Howbeit all the hiddenmost of them were slain with the sword, For they pursued them unto Gezerah, and unto the plains of Idumea, and Azotus, and Jamnia, so that there were slain of them upon 3,000 men. This done, Judas returned again with his hosts from pursuing them, and said to the people, Be not greedy of the spoil, it as much as there is a battle before us. And Gorgias and his hosts are here by us in the mountain, but stand ye now against our enemies and overcome them, and after this ye may boldly take the spoils.
First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 19. As Judas was speaking these words, there appeared a part of them looking out of the mountain.
The book of First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 20. Who, when they perceived that the Jews had put their host to flight and were burning the tents, for the smoke that was seen declared what was done. When therefore they perceived these things, they were sore afraid. And seeing also the host of Judas in the plain ready to fight, they fled every one into the land of strangers.
So I'm going to tell you about the Maccabees, folks. The Maccabees were not about hugs and kisses. The Maccabees about kicking ass.
The book of First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 23. Then Judas returned to spoil the tents where they got much gold and silver and blue silk and purple of the sea and great riches.
So you see, they got paid. Read.
After this, they went home and sung a song of thanksgiving and praised the Lord in heaven, because it is good, because his mercy endureth forever.
So you see how the Maccabees, these are real men. They went, they roll stomped, right? And then they sung a song of thanksgiving. They gave thanksgiving to the Most High God.
Verse 25, thus Israel had a great deliverance that day. Now all the strangers that had escaped came and told Lysias what had happened.
Verse 27, read.
Verse 27, who, when he had heard thereof, was confounded and discouraged, because neither such things as he would were done unto Israel, nor such things as the king commanded him were come to pass. The next year, therefore, following Lysias, gathered together 70,000 choice men of foot and 5,000 horsemen, that he might subdue them. So they came into Idumea and pitched their tents at Bethsura, and Judas met them with 10,000 men.
You see, Judas ain't letting up.
First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 30. And when he saw that the mighty army, he prayed and said, Blessed art thou, our Savior of Israel, who doest quell the violence of the mighty man by the hand of thy servant David, and gavest the host of strangers into the hands of Jonathan, the son of Saul, and his armor bearer.
The book of First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 31. Shut up this army in the hand of thy people Israel, and let them be confounded in their power and horsemen. Make them to be of no courage, and cause the boldness of their strength to fall away, and let them quake at their destruction. Cast them down with the sword of them that love thee, and let all those that know thy name praise thee with thanksgiving. So they joined battle, and they were slain of the host of Lysias, about 5,000 men. Even before them were they slain. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, and the manliness of Judas's soldiers, and how they were ready either to live or die valiantly, he went into Antiochia and gathered together a company of strangers, and having made his army greater than it was, he purposed to come again into Judea.
So you see here, look at what the Lord said. Now when Lysias saw his army put to flight, meaning they ran like cowards, and the manliness of Judas's soldiers, the manliness, and how they were ready to either live or die valiantly, just whooping ass. Verse 36, read.
The book of First Maccabees chapter 4, verse 36. Then said Judas and his brethren, Behold, our enemies are discomfited. Let us go up to cleanse and dedicate the sanctuary.
Okay, so this is where now we're talking about Judas Maccabees cleansing the sanctuary because the sanctuary had been defiled. Read.
Upon this, all the hosts assembled themselves together and went up into Mount Sion. And when they saw the sanctuary desolate, and the altar profane, and the gates burned up, and shrubs growing in the courts as in a forest, or in one of the mountains, yea, and the priest chambers pulled down, they rent their clothes and made great lamentation, and cast ash upon their heads, and fell down flat to the ground upon their faces, and blew an alarm with the trumpets, and cried towards heaven. Then Judas appointed certain men to fight against those that were in the fortress, until he had cleansed the sanctuary. So he chose priests of blameless conversation, such as had pleasure in the law.
He appointed a kill crew to go take care of what was left. He also appointed priests.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 43, who cleansed the sanctuary and bare out the defiled stones into an unclean place. And when, as they consulted what to do with the altar of burnt offerings, which was profane, they thought it best to pull it down, lest it should be a reproach to them, because the heathen had defiled it. Wherefore they pulled it down, and laid up the stones in the mountain of the temple in the convenient place, until there should be a prophet to shew what should be done with them. Then they took whole stones according to the law, and built a new altar according to the former, and made up the sanctuary and the things that were within the temple, and hollowed the courts. They made also new holy vessels, and into the temple they brought the candlestick, and the altar of burnt offerings, and of incense, and the table.
So you see here, and upon the altar they burned incense for that sweet smell, and the lamps that were upon the candlesticks were lighted, that may give light in the temple.
The book of 1 Maccabees, chapter 4, verse 51. Furthermore, they set the loaves upon the table, and spread out the veils, and finished all the works which they had begun to make. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caslu, in the 148th year, they rose up betimes in the morning, and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings.
So now we're talking about when we keep the Feast of Dedication, because this is to celebrate the cleansing of the temple after the destruction of Esau. Now on the 25th day of the 9th month, which is called the month of Caslu,
and offered sacrifice according to the law upon the new altar of burnt offerings, which they had made. Look at what time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell upon their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who had given them good success.
25th day of the 9th month of the month called Caslu, they laid loaves and lit menorahs. They ate, they celebrated. This is what we're supposed to do. Look at the time and what day the heathen had profaned it. Even in that was it dedicated with, listen, songs and citherns and harps and cymbals. Then all the people fell on their faces, worshiping and praising the God of heaven, who hath given them good success. It's telling you we're commanded to keep the Feast of Dedication for 8 days. So they kept the dedication of the altar 8 days, and burnt offerings with gladness, and sacrifice of deliverance and praise. Now, of course, because of Yahawashah, we do not do animal sacrifices anymore. Now, let's get into what your place is supposed to look like. Give me verse 57.
They decked also the forefront of the temple with crowns of gold, and with shields, and the gates and the chambers they renewed, and hanged doors upon them. Thus was there very great gladness among the people, for that the reproach of the heathen was put away. Moreover, Judas and his brethren with the whole congregation of Israel ordained that the days of the dedication of the altar should be kept in their season from year to year by the space of 8 days, from the 5th and 20th day of the month Caslu, with mirth and gladness.
And have an understanding about something for you people who feel like, well, this is just a Judas Maccabeus thing. Well, for you individuals that feel that way, that takes us all the way back to Nahum chapter 1, verse 15. Behold, upon the mountains, the feet of him that bringeth good tidings, that publisheth peace. O Judah, keep thy solemn feet. So today, we just went over the Feast of Dedication, which is supposed to be kept on the 5 and 20th day of the 9th month of the month of Caslu, to celebrate the destruction of the Edomites and the cleansing of the temple. And with that, shalom.
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 Shalom.